October 19th, 2023. This was the day I had finished playing World of Final Fantasy Maxima and was finally ready to tackle Final Fantasy 15. Thus began what ended up as a trilogy of videos that took 3 months to make, and we also got a little 14 in there too. Part 1, tackling the prequel content and the overall very messy and weird history backstory of the game. Part 2, a 2-hour dissection of the overall Final Fantasy 15 gameplay experience, the extra DLC, the extra side quests that were added, the different patches, the Comrades multiplayer expansion, and the canceled DLC stories. And now we're at part 3, the grand finale. A bunch of random garbage no one cares about that I couldn't fit in the last video. We all know the legacy of 15 by now. It was kept alive and improved the next few years after release with patches, quality of life improvements, extra episode DLCs, new stories, and all that. And there were plans to do much more with it until Square decided it just wasn't going to be profitable to do that because this wasn't a live service game, even though they treated it like it was one. So all the extra planned stories were put into that book we talked about in part 2, and otherwise just canceled. Today we're not talking about the main game, we're talking about a couple of spin-offs that released during the course of its short life, and even one that came out long after its death. A mobile game from 2022 early access and full release in 2023. I don't know why either. And I'll just be straightforward and honest, this was not a fun time. I hate to end 15's story on such a dull note, but so did they. With that, let's talk about our first mobile game of the day, Final Fantasy 15, A New Empire.
What are you guys playing?
Supposed to be playing Game of War, but this one player keeps kicking my ass.
Is it the Legend 27?
Yeah, the Legend 27.
Who is the Legend 27?
Remember this? This was a viral ad for one of the OG games in the genre of generic freemium city building simulator with guy screaming on app icon games. Game of War. You may recognize Game of War from borderline not safe for work banner ads for it, or some other game with similar ads that looks exactly like it. Before the Legend 27, it was most famous for using Kate Upton's boobs in Super Bowl ads to sell you on it. I mean, look at this. Look at the shamelessness of their official YouTube channel. I feel like I say this every time we cover a new mobile game, but somehow the bar continues to be set even lower. Well, okay, Kate Upton wasn't involved in A New Empire, but the game was made by the same people who made Game of War. And they got a different blonde-haired supermodel to plaster over all their ads for it. That's how you know it was made by them. That, and the fact that it is basically an exact clone of Game of War with PNGs of Final Fantasy 15 characters on it. Square Enix had no involvement in the development at all, because they simply sold the license and gave them a quick quote-unquote crash course on art direction before just giving their IP away for a quick buck. Just shameless. So, have you ever wondered how these city sim games work? You could probably imagine. Very easily, graphics look like a Windows 95 game. Here is your city. It has buildings. You can tap them to level them up, but you'll need resources. Farms for food, quarries for stone. Every building provides you with something, and each upgrade increases its efficiency with that something by a small percentage. If you have enough resources, you can do it and then wait for a timer to run out before you do anything else. That's the game. Need resources now? Pay money. Don't want to wait for the timer? Pay money. Want to do anything else while the timer goes? Pay money. Anything you can think of to make things go faster, there is an option to solve it with money. Because as a change of pace for us, this isn't a gacha game. Instead of trying to get you to gamble with fear of missing out, it just constantly bombards you with things you can buy now. Like the game has actual pop-up ads for its own microtransactions. And it's the type of ad that takes a quick second to pop after you open the game or finish a quest or something like that. And it's intentional because multiple times I have gone to click on something right as an ad pops up. And I get the confirm purchase thing saying, okay, that'll be $99.99. And I'm like, whoa, stop. And every single pack you buy is a limited time, quote unquote, you better buy now kind of thing. But if you actually wait the timer out, it almost always gets replaced with the same limited time deal. They are straight up lying to get you to pay. The entire game can be broken down to watching a loading bar go and then putting money in a machine to make it go faster so we can get to the next timer. There's always a moment when I ask myself, what is the point when playing a mobile game? What's the goal? Why are we here? Brave Exvius has a story, at least. Even All the Bravest was just a time-wasting simulator. But that's the thing about a new Empire. It's not something you can sit down and play for more than 5 minutes. All you do is set up your timers, and then you have to close the app while you wait. The only aspect to it that's slightly interesting is the MMO part. Everyone's empire exists in this whole big realm. You can join a guild and teleport your city to their hive, as they call it, and you can communicate with them. My guild was very nice and accommodating. When I said I needed some stone, one guy sent a trader over and dropped 2 million on me for no reason. I was able to start building stuff, but of course, only one thing at a time. That's when disaster struck. There's a rival guild who's been encroaching on our turf. One of them scouted me to investigate my resources. That's never a good sign. Time passed, and one moment I checked my phone to see a notification that basically said, hey, you were murdered and robbed. He stole pretty much everything my friend gifted me. And that's how it goes. Even if I saw him marching towards me and was playing at the time it happened, there wasn't much I could have done. I could have paid money to install a 24-hour shield around my place that prevents attack, but that still wouldn't have bought me enough time to use all that stone. He would have just killed me later. Fighting back wasn't an option. He was simply bigger and stronger. That's it. His power level was greatly larger than me because he's been playing forever or paid money, so I lose. I've never been attacked a single time since then. I've attacked others for no reason, just to see what would happen, but no one fights me back. You can see I'm clearly the weakest person in this guild, but no one cares because I have nothing to steal. Even a couple 100,000 stone means nothing to these people. So I never told that friend that all his stone was stolen. I kept to my silly little town and ran my silly little timers. The part that drives you insane is how many little timers there are. There are quests you can do. It's literally just a timer that you click on and it starts. No animation or anything, but most of them are 2-3 minutes. Like, too long for me to just wait on the screen, but too short for me to stop the game for a few hours, and of course you can only click one at a time. So I click it, I try to go about my day, but then I get a notification saying that something's ready for me, and I go right back. The whole design philosophy is seriously about wasting as much time as physically possible. It would be 1,000 times better if the timers were an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. But they're minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and it's just like my log time that I showed at the beginning. It doesn't seem like much, but I'm engaged in this game like throughout my entire day. I'm just checking in for like a couple seconds at a time, but it's taking me over. I have to keep going back. I can't settle into anything else. I have to go back to a new empire every 5 minutes. This was a horrible addition to my life. It made my day-to-day activities significantly worse. It offered me zero joy, zero satisfaction. Just an awful, blatant scam that doesn't even deserve to be called a video game, much less a Final Fantasy game. Everyone involved should be ashamed for what they did. Square, I don't care if you made it, you let it happen. And that's shame enough. What's next? Let's just get the other mobile game out of the way. Let's just go right for it. I know we're jumping out of release order. This is the one that came out in 2022/2023. Another Final Fantasy 15 mobile game. And it was made by the exact same people. Final Fantasy 15 War for EOS is a city simulator that looks better than a Windows 95 game. Here is your city. It has buildings. You can tap them to level them up, but you'll need resources. farms for food, quarries for stone. Every building provides you with something, and each upgrade increases its efficiency with that something by a small percentage. If you have enough resources, you can do it and then wait for a timer to run out before you do anything else. That's the game. Need resources now? Pay money. Don't want to wait for the timer? Pay money. Want to do anything else while the timer goes? Pay money. Anything you can think of to make things go faster, there is an option to solve it with money. Sorry if I gave you deja vu. Yes, I just copy and pasted the exact recording you heard a few minutes ago for A New Empire. I don't think I need to elaborate why. I think you get my point. Maybe if they killed A New Empire and replaced it with this, I would understand, but these two existing at the same time, made from the same company, is kind of crazy to me. Like, there are people out there who actively burden themselves by playing both. What a nightmarish existence. Okay, I'm not gonna re-explain everything. Pretty much everything I mentioned in A New Empire still exists in War for Eos, but handled better, and there's more. Quests are no longer simple timers you click on and wait for. There are objectives you actually have to do by playing the game, and you get rewards that way. Leveling up, researching new abilities, upgrading stuff, and interacting with the overworld is all streamlined to be a lot simpler and easier to understand. I was much more efficient with this game, racking up millions of resources at once. I never felt like I needed money to get through something fast, although that option was always there, of course. At least it doesn't constantly pop up to try to trick you into paying, so that's a big plus. We're at the point where we're celebrating a game for not having pop-ups. But look at this, the game has a story with voice acting. Something's off about it though. It's the same voice actors, but it sounds like they recorded it in their bedroom or something. Or maybe they're just like much older than they were when they recorded the original game. Maybe it was a COVID recording situation and they were in their own homes. I don't know what it is, it just sounds off.
That's it. I've come up with a new recipe.
Oh yeah?
A recipe for pain.
Completing the chapter quests awards you with the next part of the story until it doesn't. At some point, beating a chapter just unlocked the next set of quests and stopped giving me any dialogue. So, I don't know why I'm still doing them. Eventually you unlock a proper campaign where you go through stages and fight things. Look at this, a battle system. Don't worry, it plays itself. If you turn auto battle off, all you do is tap the character's face when it lights up to do their special attack, instead of the game doing it for you. It's laughable to even call it manual mode. If you want to pay for Phoenix Downs, you can get through just about anything. But let's talk about the story. It's mostly an exact retelling of 15, but with a few changes. The reason you're rebuilding Insomnia is because of the Imperial invasion that happened in Kingsglaive. That's where it starts. But instead of Luna escaping, she stays to fight back, which means the boys also didn't leave the day before. Everyone's here for it. So there's some new character stuff that happens between them as you all rebuild the city. Ravis shows up a bunch too, but eventually Luna gets kidnapped and brought to Altissia, and that's when the story is the exact same. They go off in the car, they meet Cindy, they go on the Chocobo farm, they hunt Deadeye. It's all old ground. I think the change was just to have Luna as a potential playable character. Lots of characters eventually got added. Aranea, Cindy, Sid Updata, and Loki. Loki, who was in the book and also a limited time event from the main game I didn't even know about. Okay, so they did their homework for sure. As of this video, the campaign only goes up to when they arrive in Altissia. I don't know if Luna is gonna stay alive or what, but I don't think the story is really gonna change very drastically, even if she does. The changes certainly don't make this game well worth playing, but I'll admit the experience was smoother than the last one. I can actually see and understand why someone would enjoy this game. It's still a waste of time. But if it's your thing, it's your thing. I'm not judging you for playing this. I am judging you if you play A New Empire, because man, that game redefines the game that isn't even a game. Anything appealing about A New Empire is better in War for Eos. So if you're looking for a new mobile game, I recommend, well, neither. But if you really want to try this city simulator thing and you like Final Fantasy 15, definitely go with this one. I, for one, am deleting both of these as soon as possible. I raised millions of resources to get my citadel to the next level and was robbed again. I was there when I got the notification for being scouted, but it didn't matter. As soon as these guys saw all that stuff, They teleported their cities directly next to me so they could instantly attack. It was over before I could even see what happened. You can't just teleport your city willy-nilly. I'm pretty certain these guys paid money because they saw how much stuff they could scrape off me for no effort. My city was still on fire the next day, and I saw he scouted me again just to see if there was any more he could scavenge off my corpse. Bite me, sucka? Have fun wasting your life on this trash. I'm out. Also, I upgraded my phone and never signed up for an account for these, so could not transfer my data from those games, and I traded in my old phone, so I lost all progress. And I don't care. I'm not going back. So apologies if this video is lacking some of the footage you might expect, because I wasn't able to just go back and record it because I don't have the games anymore. My bad. No more mobile games. Well, technically this next one is, but hold on. I'm only touching on it briefly for completion's sake. I did not play this game. I am not required to play this game for the purposes of this show because it is technically a remake. No, well, it's technically a demake. Square Enix, in their obsession with porting everything to the phone, realized they couldn't do that with their biggest, most AAA release to date. But in an attempt to have their cake and eat it too, they released an abridged version of Final Fantasy XV. Final Fantasy XV Pocket Edition is a much more linear game with barely any exploration elements or depth, because the combat was redesigned for phone touchscreens. The story is 10 chapters long instead of 14, and according to How Long to Beat, takes an average of 16 hours to beat. It's one of those funny, strange projects Square does every now and then. It does make me curious, but it exists as an alternative, really, for people who don't have a console or beefy PC. At least it seemed that way until a few months later they released Pocket Edition HD for PC. And that came out to all consoles later, even Switch. Good for them, but at $30, why do any of these other consoles care about it? Just get the real game at that point, right? There's apparently some additional dialogue and possibly some tiny extra lore stuff hidden in there. I think that's outside the scope of this video. Part of me does kind of want to play it someday in the future, just purely out of curiosity, but not anytime soon. I got some other Final Fantasies to get to. I'm also not a fan of the chibi skinny arm art style they went with. It looks pretty ugly to me, even in HD. I heard in an interview they originally were designing these characters to look like the original Final Fantasy VII weirdo polygon shapes, but it didn't focus test correctly for children or something, so they made them more like cutesy and cartoony. I guess this game was meant to be played by kids who are glued to their iPads. Fine, that's good for them. Entry-level Final Fantasy, that's all well and good, but we got people saying, actually, I think it's better than the main game because the story has better pacing and the linear design is more enjoyable. Alright, come on, man. That's some Nintendo Switch copium right there. But enough about that. It's time for the real grand finale. There's one more thing I have to talk about before we close the book on Final Fantasy XV for good. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Fishing. I purchased a refurbished PlayStation VR headset and all the wires and doohickeys and whatnot for $60 to play this exclusive experience. Now, I'm gonna be a bit biased as an owner of a Valve Index, which is still considered pretty top of the line in this field. And I know this isn't gonna be like directly related to the game, but can we just real quick talk about how jank the PSVR setup is? It comes with this mini PS4 for your PS4 with its own power supply and HDMI cable. The sectioned off part slides up and down, so when you try to plug it in, the thing just slides backwards and it makes it really annoying to actually get the plug in there. You get the two VR cables in there, you gotta plug the PlayStation camera from like 2014 into the console and use it as a Wii sensor bar for the headset. Face it at all times, or else. You wear the headset by strapping it around diagonally by your neck area. It comes with $5 airplane earbuds that aren't even labeled left or right, and they plug into this thing that lets you adjust volume but also has the power button for the mini PS4, and you might press it because you can't see the buttons while you're playing. Oh, and you're supposed to use the PlayStation Move controllers from 2010, but you don't have to because the DualShock is also a motion controller. This cost $400 when it came out, but on the other hand, it does have fishing. Monster of the Deep Final Fantasy XV is the only VR game in the series, and the only fishing/sports game in the series. Originally revealed as a first-person shooter starring Prompto, the game tested poorly with players who called it too boring and simple. How do we make it less boring? Take the gun away, give that man a rod. You play as your own custom character using the exact same creator lifted right out of Comrades, but you aren't a part of the Kingsclave this time. This time, you're just a normal guy who wants to fish all the time. A normal guy who sometimes doesn't have a head, but always has special stretchy wrists so he can reach anything he needs. Cindy rescues you after you get attacked by a sea monster and posts you up in your own cabin. Oh, so you're a fishing guy? Coincidentally, there's been a big increase in demon fish that have been harassing the people. Can we count on you to hunt them down? It's just a series of missions where each one has you visiting a new area from the game, catching fish randomly until the boss shows up, then shooting the guy a bunch of times with a crossbow until it dies. You make friends with Noctis and bond over your mutual love of fishing, and each of the other boys has their own spotlight mission too. You better bet you can use the PlayStation camera to take pics of you and your epic catches. Like most VR games, especially ones tied to bigger franchises, this feels like a glorified theme park attraction that is over with pretty quick. Did I mention I'm not really big on fishing? It took me under 3 hours to get through the story. Most of that was casting a line out and nothing biting. Just like the real thing. I was expecting a bit more depth to the gameplay since the whole game is fishing, but it feels like it works exactly how it did in 15. You just have to use motion controls now. They added this sonar thing that lets you scan a lake, revealing where the fish are hiding in like an X-ray vision thing. And in general, you have these circled areas that tell you where to aim. But that's it, man. Throw it in that general direction, hope something bites, reel it in. That is the game. I'm sure it gets deeper if you explore extra content. There's a shop where you can buy different rods, reels, lures, and lines. All the same ones you could buy in the normal game, by the way. What you equip should affect what fish are more attracted to bite, but it doesn't matter at all for the story missions because every mission just requires you to catch any number of random fish. I never bought anything from the shop. The real game probably starts when you go on these hunt missions that ask you to go for a specific fish, and you can use the equipment best suited for that. There's also tournaments where you compete with non-existent NPCs just to catch the highest volume of fish. Usually I try to explore this side stuff a little bit, just to get a taste for like review purposes, to get my impressions at least. But if you've seen my video on Type 0 HD, you know I'm pretty prone to motion sickness. My final time in the game was 2 hours and 42 minutes, but it took me like 4 days to get there. For those of you who don't have the pleasure of getting motion sick, when it happens, it's not like you take the headset off and take a second to recover. Once that awful feeling hits you, you could feel like you want to throw up for the rest of the day. Sometimes longer. It takes you out. Now that didn't happen when playing this game because I was careful, but I did feel it creeping in a little. That's about when I made sure to stop. It doesn't help that I'm used to the Valve Index with its much better resolution, FOV, and actual one-to-one movement, at least within those boundaries. There isn't much movement to a game about fishing, but you do have to walk to each fishing spot with the classic look and teleport method, which can sometimes really mess me up. I would actually just close my eyes whenever I moved to avoid that disorienting feeling. Some VR games have that as a setting in itself where the game actually cuts to black when you teleport. Not this one though. It overall wasn't too bad. Actually, and I'm being 100% serious when I say this, I got more sick playing Type 0 than I did playing this. Sick stuff aside, the PSVR resolution is pretty bad. I know I'm index pilled, but it's hard to see the details a lot of the time. Even reading text was kinda hard. I was still wearing my glasses while playing, but I constantly would be adjusting the headset to try and focus easier, and I never found quite a comfy spot. But the camera sensor detector solution is laughable too. I was always getting out of the play zone. The motion control didn't always work how I wanted it, but I'm willing to bet it would have worked a lot better if I wasn't using a normal PS4 controller as a fishing rod. Eventually, you make your way to the final boss, which is just another even bigger fish that you shoot with a crossbow until it dies. You fall off the boat, but thank God for your friend Noctis, who's there to save you.
Hey, grab my hand!
Now that all those demon fish are gone, you get to join the boys in one of their trademark camping meals. Got me thinking. They could have easily made a cooking VR game instead of a fishing one. That would have been so sick. You could be like Ignis's protege or something. Maybe combine them, like you fish and then you have to cook the fish. I don't know, I'm just spitballing. Let's just get to the end here. This is a weird one to even think about recommending. I was not impressed with this thing, but $60 for a refurbished one is a pretty great deal. I don't know why PSVR 2 was not made backwards compatible, but I guess that makes this thing worth something now. There's some value to owning this thing. Should you think about owning this thing? Not to play this game. If you're into fishing, I'm sure there are tons of fishing VR games that do it better. If you just want more 15, it's still not worth it. You're actually better off downloading War for EOS to get your fill. There's no story, there's no cool extra character interactions or moments like that. It's just a weak VR game. There's no reason to pick this up in 2024. Wow. It's 2024. How did I get here, man? I started a fun little YouTube thing to do on the side when I'm bored in March 2021, and then the next 3 years of my life were significantly focused on playing Final Fantasy games. To be honest, I still have no idea what the finish line is gonna look like. I just know we're inching ever so closer. This year on REFFOID, we will reach February 29th, a day of death, a day of rebirth. Whatever's in store, we will face it head on. The mountainous hurdle that was the Final Fantasy XV universe is now fully complete. But next time on REFFOID, we will meet Noctis again. In what context? You'll just have to wait and see. Time to play the Kingdom Hearts VR experience and then never touch this thing again.